This was a report from Mike Dennison with the Montana Television Network. Governor Steve Bullock Wednesday vetoed a bill that would have created a 10-year property tax abatement for installing new cable for high-speed internet and cell phone service, saying it creates a tax break for corporations to, quote, do things they're already doing in Montana. Now, I don't know all the ins and outs of this particular piece of legislation, but so yeah, maybe there. So I don't profess to know all the ins and outs of this particular legislation, but I do know this: we could use better broadband access here in Montana. We could have better high-speed internet. We could have better cell phone service, couldn't we? I mean, couldn't we all agree on that? I mean, I remember former Congressman Ryan Zinke, when he'd travel across Montana, he'd always say, I saw better cell phone coverage in Iraq sometimes than I've seen in Montana, right? And I've been to Afghanistan too. In Iraq, I can second that. Heck, I've been to places in Africa that you wouldn't think would have cell service, and they have cell service. But yet driving across Montana and sorry, you're breaking up. And so I don't know all the ins and outs of this legislation. But I tell you who probably does know, State Senator Jason Ellsworth out of Hamilton, Montana. He's now with us on the phone lines. It was his bill. Senator Ellsworth, thanks for being with us this morning on the show.
Good morning, Aaron. I've heard that I've got the perfect face for radio. So
yeah, well, me too.
Very excited to be.
Yeah, I don't even have a good face for radio, so you got a leg up on me there. So tell us about your bill. You're out of Hamilton, just south of Missoula, of course. Hey, I think we all can agree that we need more high-speed internet and cell phone service, but it also seems like Governor Steve Bullock, what was he thinking here? I don't know. First off, tell us about the bill.
Well, let me tell you about what the bill is and what it did for Montana. Senate Bill 239 was a small tax abatement. So when they put new high-speed fiber or cable that allows us to access the internet, and also, as we roll out 5G service in the state of Montana, you have to have backbone fiber in order, to deliver that service. And the abatement was 3 to 6%, and allowed at a tax abatement for 5 years for companies to install fiber. And then after 5 years, then that property is then put back on the tax rolls at 20% per year until it reaches 100% taxable value. And then, it's essentially got about a 30-year lifespan. So it's a small abatement to allow companies in the state of Montana to roll out fiber and specifically encourage the rollout of fiber in rural areas. And, excuse me, some of the basic numbers are in Montana, I think we're 49th in the access to what is defined as high-speed internet.
Wow. So we're almost dead last in the country, and Bullock says, oh, no, we don't need this tax incentive bill because these companies they're already building that infrastructure, so we don't need it. We're almost dead last in the country. That's crazy.
Yeah, and, I kind of want to point out another key factor of this bill was whatever abatement they got, they had to then reinvest that tax abatement back into fiber. So they don't get to pocket that. They don't get to use it for bonuses for their company. They don't get to use it for bonuses for their employees or to put it on their bottom line. They actually have to reinvest that tax abatement back into fiber. So it really has a snowballing effect of giving a small abatement, and then whatever abatement they do get, they have to put it back in. And I think that was a key part of the bill because a lot of tax breaks that companies get, they get that money, and it's a corporate handout. And they don't have to reinvest it back into what they're doing. So it was a unique piece of legislation, and I've yet to see another bill that is put out there that actually says, hey, hold on a second. we are going to give you a tax break, but you actually have to put it back into what you're doing.
Well, yeah, I mean, case in point, one of the bills that Governor Bullock did sign, he doesn't typically sign tax relief bills or tax credit bills. I mean, case in point, there was an effort to reduce the Social Security tax burden on Montana senior citizens, and Governor Bullock vetoed that. But one of the bills that Governor Bullock did sign was a bill to give tax credits to Hollywood film producers, Now, hey, good deal on that one, too. I get why people support that. I'm not saying that he shouldn't have signed that bill, but I do find it quite ironic that Governor Steve Bullock will give a tax credit to his buddies in the film industry, but he won't give a tax credit to try to get more high-speed internet and cell phone service in Montana, especially when the fiscal analysis of the bill by the Bullock administration said it would only cost the state treasury about $600,000 within the next 2 years. I mean, that is like pennies compared to everything else he is spending money on.
Well, speaking about that movie industry bill, because if you want to compare what they're doing there, they can't even use that tax break. So they're actually allowed to sell that tax break on the open market and then get that money back from companies that can use that tax break. So we're actually over, giving them a tax break of what they can use and then allowing them to sell it. And this bill simply said, hey, look, we're underserved in the state of Montana, and let's give a small tax break on fiber that's being put in the ground or high-speed cable. And you know what? Whatever you get, you have to put it back in. And what blew me away was if you look at, Governor Bullock's Main Street, Montana project, kind of that's his, hey, this is what we're going to do while we're here in the administration. And Pillar 3, which is built upon Montana's economic foundation. And if you start going down and looking at this, ensure Montana business and communities have efficient and reliable infrastructure. And one of the objectives is to enhance broadband and telecommunications access across Montana. So this is his own policy that he's put out.
State Senator Jason Ellsworth out of Hamilton, Montana here, talking about his bill that would help with the installment of new high-speed internet and cell phone service here in Montana, a bill that got vetoed by Governor Steve Bullock, even though it only had a fiscal analysis of costing about $600,000 within the next 2 years. I mean, here we have a governor who, one of his top priorities, this was a bigger priority than keeping the preschool program up and running for Governor Steve Bullock, was building a museum in Helena. Now, look, I've talked with the head of that museum. Sounds like a cool project. Excited to see it get built and up and running. But, okay, Governor, your top priority practically, aside from Medicaid expansion, was spending $38 million on a new museum in Helena, and you can't give out even $600,000 in tax credits to build high-speed internet and cell phone service access? Senator Ellsworth, any final thoughts from you?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, this bill really served Montana. We would, in the long run, have more taxable property and be able to, tax that property. And then, we talk about infrastructure in the state. Well, in my opinion, broadband, high-speed internet, that is infrastructure. And these companies want to roll it out. But I believe at a cost of, they're talking about $33,000 per mile. And that's what they spend to put this stuff in.
And in Montana, there's a lot of dirt between light bulbs. Former Senator Burns was famous with always saying, too, with the importance of electricity. And you can take that same approach when it comes to broadband.
Yeah, and then, I think looking at some of the statements that he made, that it would go to the largest companies. Well, Montana, I believe, has 12 telephone co-ops that would qualify for this. And some of these co-ops represent only 4,500 people.
Yeah.
And they're the ones that would be utilizing this to get, high-speed internet to their consumers.
And they do important work. That's true. Well, Senator Ellsworth, actually, if you can stand by for just a couple more minutes. We've only got a couple minutes to go, but we do have a caller on the line as well. Let's go to Mark in Big Fork. Mark, your thoughts, question or comment from you?
Hi, Aaron. Thanks for taking my call. I just applaud the gentleman for trying to pass the bill and get more broadband in the state of Montana. That's definitely an issue for small businesses, families, and so on. But I also want to go back for a second. I called a couple months back with the state PUC commissioner. Part of the real problem in the state of Montana is the state legislature many years ago repealed the control of the PUC over internet services. So now customers in Montana like myself, if I can't get good service, or CenturyLink, I'll use them for a sec, will give me bad service, I have no option. The state has no leverage over where they're going to put it and why they're going to put it and so on. So I see that as one issue of the state gaining control back over a public utility such as internet. The other thing that I would say is, why isn't the tax system across the board for internet providers the same? And again, I'm not a big fan of CenturyLink, but CenturyLink service, I pay a crap load of taxes for my service. I switched to Bresnan or Spectrum, and I don't pay the same taxes because the state's not taxing the two utilities as the same.
Oh, interesting. Well, a couple of different topics. Unfortunately, we've only got less than a minute to go here, but Senator Ellsworth, any thoughts?
I mean, at the end of the day, we've fed this country with, our crops, with our agriculture. We powered the Northwest with our coal. And this was an opportunity for us to become an economic driver in this country. And I think the governor missed it.
And how did we build those crops? How did we make those crops, and how did we have those light bulbs? Even though there was a lot of dirt between those light bulbs, we did it through electric co-ops, for example, that had tax incentives in place to be able to provide that great service. So why wouldn't we also provide tax incentives to install the next round of infrastructure? It just all seems to make sense. Senator Ellsworth, appreciate your time, and thanks for being with us this morning.
Absolutely. You have a wonderful morning.